Tonight, we go to Jackson, Mississippi.
Jackson, Mississippi.
Jackson, Mississippi.
Jackson's water system has been in crisis for years.
Movements for racial justice and the environment have been major themes around the world. But Jackson, Mississippi has become a city at the intersection of both issues.
I think there have always been challenges in Jackson, just like any other city.
Some of the discussions that we have seen in the national headlines around Jackson represent an honest struggle.
Well, it's not fake news. There are real challenges.
We do know we have a crime problem in the city of Jackson.
We have infrastructure issues. We have a hard time working together a lot of times. I do think there is a lot of truth to what people are talking about, but I do think there's also a lot of hope in kind of where we are at this moment, kind of in the history of Jackson.
What's happening here is what's happening everywhere. The first thing that you Google, that's not who we are.
The positives outweigh those challenges significantly.
No one is talking about our history. No one is talking about the great things that we're doing right here in our city.
Mississippi is our nation's best kept secret in a lot of ways.
Your name and your title, and what do you do?
My name is Ricky Thigpen. I have the absolute honor of serving as President and CEO of Jackson's official destination leadership organization, Visit Jackson. So I was born in Jackson, Mississippi, so I am a native Jacksonian. A lot of times I get phone calls from friends and relatives from outside of the area, those who maybe even grew up here with me. You have no water, and you have these infrastructure issues and public safety issues and challenges, and I'm always a little taken aback because that's not the Jackson that I get a chance to live in. That's not the Jackson I get a chance to promote. Our capital story is really the Mississippi story and the Jackson story. We're one of the few states in the nation that have two operating Capitol buildings. The leaders then thought that all state government needed to be under one building, under one roof. And so the old Capitol was built. It got too small. And so then they built the new Capitol building, which is a replica of the U.S. Capitol, built by slave labor. On every corner of the Capitol, there is a church of a different denomination. I think that's not a mistake. You got faith that surrounds the Capitol of the state that has had the most significant cradle of the civil rights movement. We now have more African American elected officials than any other state in the nation. And whether we agree or disagree, we can, I think, benefit and grow and become a much stronger state by agreeing to be disagreeable, agreeing to be respectful. If it can happen in Mississippi, it can happen in this nation. The marches and all the protests that have occurred on those steps of people who were the forgotten and disadvantaged, little by little, are making this state better. And I'll go out and say making this world a better place because of the example that Mississippi is contributing to that culture change.
Jackson's my home, born and raised here. I love this place. The main thing is the people.
There's a common thread that we want our state to be the best state it could possibly be, right? And I realized quickly is that the state of Mississippi could only reach its level of potential if it has a strong capital city.
I used to be one of those children. When I graduated high school, my plan was to leave the state of Mississippi. But I started looking at Jackson from a different lens. I started finding out what are some of the good things in Jackson? What are those things that we can be proud of? Once you start finding out what those things that you can be proud of and that you can love, you begin to change the attitude of yourself for want to make a difference.
Storylines become amplified and highlighted that don't necessarily always meet the reality on the ground. I do believe that as Mississippians, by and large, black, white, Republican, Democrat, we want a brighter future for our our kids. I think that's a defining reality.
I think there have always been challenges in Jackson, just like any other city. What I like to focus on is what I can do and what small part I can play in the larger narrative of helping children feel like they have a safe place to come. One of the great strengths of the Children's Museum is that we've always been able to be the voice of the child. One of the most meaningful projects that I've been able to be a part of is the building of the new park at LaFleur's Bluff Playground. By gathering resources from both private and public entities, we were able to build a 30,000 square foot playground with state-of-the-art equipment. Not only is it an actual practical place where children and families can gather, but it's really been seen as a beacon of positive momentum in Jackson.
And we are so much more than just a museum where children come to play. We are influencers in the field of education. We are influencers in the field of economic development. We're also helping lead the charge in our museum district and what that looks like for the other 3 museums within our space. And so I absolutely believe that, number one, we have a place and a voice. We are the voice of children, but we also have some very powerful, very intelligent people within our organization that are capable of helping to lead these conversations or be a part of these conversations as it relates to what's best for our city.
My name is Mary Sanders Ferris Kavicki. I'm an interior designer by trade, and so we do design and branding for any kind of commercial space that really wants to tell their story. With my husband, Hal and Mouse, which is kind of a downtown Jackson institution, and then Campbell's Bakery. Jackson really, at the end of the day, has a really great community, and I think that the goal in the way we design is that spaces feel communal. Tables are kind of close together, and you're able to kind of connect to the energy of the table next to you and really kind of grow that. There's steps of design. This is like you learn it in every school, whether it's architecture or interior design. We would call it programming, and you would talk to everyone kind of involved in the project. What all is needed, who needs to be next to each other, who needs to be able to work together, and then we, from a very large level, kind of concept out what we think this design might be. You slowly begin to whittle it down until you get to the final design. But so much of what is required is learning and understanding the client on the front end. And if you don't do that, your design is never successful. I could design a beautiful space based on what I think, but if it doesn't align with whoever's gonna be running it and whoever's gonna be operating it, it doesn't work. If you were to ask me about Jackson, if the people who are designing all of this for the city are not actually talking to the citizens, from a general design perspective, it won't work.
We got to work together as one team. We can all have our differences of what we feel may work this way or that way, but the attitudes would have to go. We got to come to the table and see how we can work together. And we may not agree on everything, but at the end of the day, we should have one goal to make sure that Jackson is whole. We should also have one goal to make sure Jackson is safe, that we have things that our future, we want to make sure our future is bright, that not only that it's be good for us now, but when we leave here, it's in a better place than when we came here.
Any functioning place with a quality of life that actually is growing or has growth opportunities is able to both tackle critical challenges, the very basic necessities of life, as well as chart a course for prosperity, right? Have a vision and track in that way. The elements are in place and are happening to do those very things.
So listen, not only with your ears, but listen to your heart. Let the people, let the architecture, let the space, the air speak to your heart. And then let's have an honest discussion about how we can move forward, identify challenges that are real, and start one by one, just checking them off the list.
My husband and I have 2 children, and I want them to live here. when they are adults. I want them to know what a strong community feels like.
I know that nothing is done without relationships. And so that is what makes this process work between Jackson and the state of Mississippi to get things done in our areas and our district and across this entire city. It comes down to relationships. It is not about being a Republican or a Democrat or independent. It's about how we can take care of the citizens of Jackson and the state of Mississippi as a whole.
I think we need to think about how we can retain these people in our city so that we can get back to our wonderful, rich heritage that we have here in our city. And we can only do it if we work together. We've got to work together.
So I see challenging times as an opportunity to chart a beautiful course, right? To bring along a community that can say, look, we want the same thing, let's go.